This is the summary of the referred Audit and Risk Committee reports. Over to you, Paul and Emma. Good morning, Paul.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So this is a new process where we reduce the level of detail coming to the Council and instead come in person with summarised reports. We have two reports this time, the health and safety and the enterprise risk. Health and safety, you know, has been undergoing a reset over quite a period of time. All the indicators were turned red because we had a lack of consistency and a lack of central transparency over health and safety. The system's been rebuilt and the framework refreshed. Critical risks and controls are progressing. So we've got quite a change in terms of the central approach and standardisation. The Drug and Alcohol Guide has been updated. There have been 4 WorkSafe notification incidents this quarter and all have been closed in terms of investigations. A little bit of unfinished work is that the health and safety rep coverage is still below target and is a little uneven across the organisation. I think, though, the headline item which keeps everyone awake on health and safety is frontline aggression. So that is a continued focus for the team, and there's a program being put together there, which I'm sure Phil can talk about in a minute. The second is the enterprise risk. So there's no change in the risk ratings this cycle, with the exception that the transport transition program is lifting our risk temporarily. And this is to be expected. It's probably, I mean corporate-wise, it's one of the bigger transitions in New Zealand that you'd see, really. This is a big deal. And so, of course, it comes with risks. The risk team is embedded in the process and helping manage those risks. The other things that have happened is that there has been a review of the risk appetite, and a number of councillors attended a workshop which created some very animated and stimulating discussion. There was also a workshop with the ELT, and as a consequence of those workshops and some thinking, 3 areas of risk have been reduced in terms of we are prepared to take a bit more risk. Otherwise, the risk ratings are the same, and some areas have been re-described, some controls have been improved, particularly around data and IT and security. Those have been sort of re-described. So that's it. Basically, it's steady as she goes, apart from eyes up on the transport risk, which we all understand anyway. And happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Well, I've got one. Health and safety is always pretty annoying, I've found. And it adds to cost everywhere, but not a lot of health. I notice in our council eating area, the food portions are enormous, and so are some of the people who eat them. Do we do any measure of that part of health? Because there are some people in there who are morbidly obese and that can't be healthy. And we feed them even more than we should, and we should say don't. Or is that really interfering? Or is that actually practising health and safety, which you're not really supposed to do? You're only supposed to get orange cones out and drive people mad.
Point of order, Mayor.
It's a question?
No, well, I just don't think talking about people, it's point of order.
In charge of hospitals for many, many years, and everyone told me that one of the worst things for your health is to be morbidly obese. I want an answer from you. Did you look into that?
That's not an area that's come to my attention, Your Worship, so I can't comment at this point in time.
Safety is only a bit of health and a bit of safety. Councillor Ferry, please.
Kia ora. I think we're talking about health and safety risks that we can control and that are part of the workplace, and people's diet is absolutely not something that we should be, I think, having any control over in the workplace. My question though, and I guess I sort of feel like we had a little bit of an example of it just then, is around aggression towards staff and how we as elected members who have a public platform may be contributing wittingly or unwittingly to a culture of aggression towards staff. and whether you or perhaps Phil have any comment on that.
Yes, so it has been highlighted. If we look at the chart of incidents, the highest incidence type is aggression. So it is front and centre. We have seen work at within the group, so this is outside council, at AT with putting in the safety shields, and I've personally seen and the sort of random but security officers travelling on buses. In terms of the organisation, there has been a trial of a working together safely program, which I gather is based on de-escalation and providing workers with more skills. But it is definitely a focus of management, and I wonder, Phil, whether you'd have some more detail, up-to-date detail on that.
Okay. First of all, just to acknowledge that in our risk assessment work, and therefore flowing into the actions that we're taking in the health and safety space, violence and aggression towards staff is right at the top of the list. Okay, there is a lot of evidence, a lot of stats that go to public behaviours directed at staff. There are a couple of aspects to that. In some of our facilities, we're talking about mental health and other antisocial behaviour issues coming into our work environments, just because of the fact that we're very community-based, and as you can imagine, with staff in over 200 locations around the region, we're exposed in that regard. So there are strategies in place around that. To the specific point about the culture, if you like, that we might be feeding, I have to be honest and say that I think there's some unhelpful stuff that is part of appropriate political debate in one view, but has the effect of being challenging for staff to deal with, because it cultivates attitudes, commentary, be it on social media and otherwise. So we haven't specifically addressed that to you. I'll acknowledge that. I would go as far, and maybe there's a discussion best to take offline and have with you, but I would just ask for your sort of goodwill and understanding, and outside of this chamber, it's part of a bigger picture, clearly. I'm not particularly singling councillors out here, but it does go to something I think is of concern.
Thank you.
Thanks for raising it. Chief Executive, has there been any take-up in the recent offer by the government for money to be spent for protection of elected officials? Because I have had a continuing string from the Speedway people have not given up, and I'm fed up with it, frankly.
Your Worship, I'll have to come back to you on that. I'm not familiar.
Councillor Bartley is also from the dog people go after her, and the Speedway people go after me, and both of us are fed up with it, actually.
I acknowledge that's a real issue. We've talked about that before, and I think appropriately messaged expectations out into the community and put some security arrangements in place. To the specific point about the provision for greater security that's allowed for through the Remuneration Authority settings and what have you, I'll have to come back to you on that.
My hand up, and I'm sure Josephine will too, but I'm fed up with it. Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. On the back of the Mayor's talk about health and safety and some of Councillor Ferry's questions and your answers, Chief Executive, health and safety is a huge cost. It's a huge killer of productivity. It's one of the things which is driving us into deficits. And yet, take Auckland Transport. The government not so long ago replaced the traffic management plans, which was about 600 pages thick, with a new manual, which is about 60 pages thick, and is based mainly on, I won't get my terminology right, but site-based analysis rather than procedural analysis. And I'm building myself a little dossier, if that's the right word, of pictures of the different standards we're seeing all over the city, I'm seeing all over the city. A roundabout with people gardening and 2 other people observing each approaching road. That was 9 other people. Another roundabout in the same area with 1 person, a flashing light, and 5 working on the road, on the roundabout garden. So my question to you is, where in your stuff, where do you sit that you can affect one change that is allowable? Where are we going to? Can you see a way of grappling with this issue? For instance, I'm scared to bring my dossier in case all the people with no traffic control or limited traffic control get told to use more. So how does this all fit into the reality on the ground?
Yes, if I can respond in 2 ways. First is that the Audit and Risk Committee is primarily responsible for the risks in the council, not AT. But in the council, I can say that what is happening is is with the new refresh of the risk management of the health and safety risk system, we're getting consistency across council, and there'll be some simplification in that because there'll be only one set of rules, one set of ways of doing things. So we're seeing simplification in council through having one consistent approach. In terms of AT, traffic management has obviously been a big issue, and a declaration of interest. I'm on the board of WorkSafe, and for a period of time WorkSafe had the road cone reporting line and probably worked with council. So beyond that, I haven't got a comment today. I don't know whether the CEO has, but my remit is to receive the risk register from AT, not get involved in managing its risks. And so sort of off the cuff, I would be a little bit reticent to throw something into the debate, but I don't know whether you've got a comment, Phil, or not.
If you do, Phil, can I understand that a little bit better? So you're accepting the records, basically, but who should be sitting in front of us to talk to us about the delivery in the council family? Because Auckland Transport's coming in on board, so... Yeah,
again, not all of Auckland Transport's coming on board, but I gather that the roads will be, so that will come that will come into our interest, and it will be part of the health and safety management system shortly, but it isn't currently, so I haven't looked into that. The key issue for our committee is to ensure that the risk register and the processes, so I should talk to them and they come to us and to present. So we're looking at the risk processes for AT, but we don't go further than that because it's got its own board and has been doing its own thing. That will change, and so we may have a different discussion next time I come, but today I've got no further comment to add, I'm afraid.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chief Executive, I'm still unclear of who's delivering what.
Well, the first principle is that the line management, the leadership in the relevant area has primary responsibility, supported by a health and safety team. In the transport space, my suggestion would be that we arrange for Steve Mutton to discuss with you in due course. Happy to arrange that as the person who we've recently appointed to steer the ship going forward in terms of that aspect of transport operations. It doesn't surprise me that you see variability in the approach. The whole point of moving away from something really prescriptive and potentially over-engineered, might not be quite the right expression, and to something risk-based where we assess the genuine risks in each location for each project means that there'll be differences. That's probably not a bad thing if it makes sure that the traffic engineering and what have you is really appropriate to the context and the actual risk. But we discussed this as recently as this morning in the executive team, and it's a key priority for Steve. So I think we'll take it offline and create an opportunity to talk about what that looks like going forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Watson, please.
Pursuing the health and safety line a little further with regards people who work for Auckland Council, I think it would be useful if there was maybe some comparators there to other public-facing work, because obviously there's a deterioration society-wide. It would be useful to know what Auckland Council employees face over and above that, or what are some of the unique circumstances that characterise the council. Obviously, dog control, public-facing at libraries and community centres, we're aware of that. But what else over and above those obvious areas is it that affects the people that work for us? I'm pretty sure, and no doubt Phil will confirm, that all our staff have de-escalation training, so that I'm assuming people are well equipped with the training as how to approach generally, because in many areas it's a daily occurrence. That's a correct assumption, Phil, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a program, and that's a key plank. Obviously, it's an ongoing investment because of turnover and refreshing and what have you, but there's a program to that end, yeah. Yes.
And I guess as far as elected members go, in terms of their dealings with the community or interactions with the community or each other, I suppose the old adage of treating others as you like to be treated yourself is probably a good starting point. Certainly, labelling people morons or idiots or even show ponies publicly probably isn't going to get a reasonable response from the community at large. So, I think that cuts both ways, to be honest.
So we've got stats which are in the health and safety report that show where the incidents happen, and clearly the biggest numbers, the community directorship, followed by resilience and infrastructure. But we can probably get that broken down into a little bit more detail and get that type of sort of cross-cutting so you can see, and we can deliver that at some stage. I'm not sure whether you want that in the interim or the next time I front up here.
Councillor Hill, please.
Thank you. Just 3 questions. First one is on climate. Looking at the report, you've obviously got that as a critical risk, and I guess do you see issues how we're tracking both in adaptation or mitigation, but also do you see a problem that there is too many people trying to lead that work and no clear responsibility, or would you say the responsibility lies with Phil and he kind of directs that?
I think the responsibility lies there, and I mean everyone has climate as a consideration when they're making decisions. And there's sort of 2 big areas. One part of it is the asset management planning, and I think those folk really do understand what they're doing and what they're facing, and then they've got to come and talk to you about the long-term plan and how much money they get, and I won't comment on that. The other area is, of course, spatial planning, and that's an ongoing challenge, but there has been changes there again with the flood areas. Everyone has to think about it, but it does come back to Phil and the exec team, and the exec team, from what I understand, work together on these things. But again, if Phil would add anything, I don't mind.
No, that's correct. I mean, we've all got responsibilities here, for sure. Obviously, you've got to look to the management and exec to do its part, but where progress is in the policy realm in terms of your settings, your level of investment to achieve outcomes, then you share in that.
Thank you. The next question just is on health and safety. So Obviously New Zealand, I think we have twice the deaths of Australia and 4 times the deaths at work than the UK. With Auckland Transport coming in, and as well as the decision around Tony Gibson, recently the appeal has noted that he had, even if he didn't have visible responsibility, he had direct responsibility. How do you feel the risk with Auckland Transport coming in for us, or for our decision making, is going to escalate with all that in the mix?
Yes, so first to be clear, elected members are responsible but don't have are not exposed to prosecution or penalties. So just so we can all be comfortable that people sitting at this table, apart from Phil, aren't facing personal exposure. But the responsibility is still there. So clearly broadening the organisation to include AT will broaden the risk profile. It's already a big organisation, it's just got a bit bigger, or quite a bit bigger. So yes, so clearly that will raise it. One of the key things that comes out of the Gibson case is the concept of work as envisaged versus work as done. And so in terms of how the framework works, we say, we have some critical risks, we have some controls, and then we have assurance processes that go and have a look to make sure the controls are actually being implemented as we thought they should be. So that's the work as envisaged. That's in the work program. If we look at the detailed report, which you've got access to, it is there. It's not, we haven't got to that point yet. We're still working on the controls, but it is in the program to have the assurance work to make sure the controls actually work. And that sort of covers off the Gibson issue, where that was absent on that night shift in particular.
Thank you for that. And the last question, just on our financial policy. So you've noted that we have really clear policies to try and avoid uncertainty, even though everything's uncertain, so on depreciation and things like that. And you will have seen some of our discussions through the budget. But I guess with, I think, oil spiking today because of another decision, how do you see us tracking going forward with financial tools in place, but also all this uncertainty? What do you have any advice to us of how we deal with that constant, almost month-to-month change in budgetary direction?
So I think the finance team has the tools to calculate, sort of mathematically calculate the consequences of these things so they can roll them into their numbers. There's then a need to find opportunities to reduce other costs to compensate. So that is a management task, which happens in every budget. I mean, as soon as you do a forecast, the only thing you know it's not going to look like, it's not going to be that way. There's always going to be things moving. That's the very nature of any forecasting, any budgeting. So there will always be the need to compensate for changes, have the ups and downs sort of type schedule. So management, I believe, is onto that. Longer term, if changes are baked into the economic costs, if we have increased inflation that stays and then gets baked into future inflation, so it sort of compounds. If we have fuel stays up for an extended period, then plans will have to be looked at. I think the council has the tools to do the work, but it'll then come down to, unfortunately, it'll come back to you to receive that information and make decisions as to what stays and goes in order to balance the books. So I think the tools are there, but unfortunately the discussion is going to come back here at some point, potentially.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your attendance. I'll just honour as Councillor Turner's got another question.
Thank you. Just on that too, given that the National Climate Risk, the National Climate Change Commission, and the have all accepted or that this new report, which says that RCP 8.5 climate analysis or basis is implausible. Yeah, I just heard Councillor Hills ask about our climate risk. How do you take that sort of fundamental shift in planning and in policy? How do you bring that into your risk analysis here? Do you feed it back to us, or do we have to feed it your way?
I know that should come through because when management's making its plans, it's always looking at scenarios. It never looks at a single point and says that's what's going to happen. I don't think they've taken the extremist scenario in the long-term plan. And if there was going to be a change, it would come through that planning process.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Right, any debate on this particular item? In which case, I will put the motion that we receive the consolidated referred report from the Audit and Risk Committee, including health and safety wellbeing update. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you for your attendance, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to item 8.2, the Tupuna Authority Operational Plan. Normally this would come to the same meeting as our annual plan,